Hi, welcome to our September workshop series. I am excited to share with you a content that was presented in front of a live audience, and everyone paid big bucks to get this material. And I decided, you know what? What about the people that can't fly to Miami? What about the people that just couldn't make it or that didn't get a ticket or didn't even know about it? So I'm here to share this content with you today for free. And it's one of our four workshops during the month of September. So welcome. And with that in mind, I just wanted to let you know that here I have Instagram, here I have YouTube and the Zoom call. So I'm managing the technology and I'll be looking down for the slides to make sure that I don't miss anything. And I also have it printed out, so it's really cool. So let's jump right in. Hey, everybody, and get started. Just make sure I have all my ducks in a row over here. Perfect. Okay, so let's get started. So the first thing that I would like to do is welcome you all and thank you for joining. And you know what, most importantly, thank you and thank yourself for making an investment in you, for taking the time to be here because you're investing in your career and you're getting information from someone who's been there and done that. And you're smarter than most people out there because you're not like, you know what, let me get 15 years of experience and then I'll figure it out. No, what you're doing is that you're going directly to the source, to someone who already has that experience and is delivering it to you in 30 to 40 minutes. That's the way to go. That's the way to the future. So you know what? Congratulations. And thank you for making that investment in you and putting the trust in me through this process. So I want to share with you a quote that I absolutely love that says, people don't fail in life because they aim too high and miss. People fail in life because they aim too low and hit. Now let's think about that. So they fail because it's not like they're aiming too high and the goals are too unrealistic. People fail because they aim low and then they hit the goal and then they're like, oh, you know, they're not thinking big and they don't have these things aligned. And that's an unknown author. I wish I knew who that was so that we could congratulate them. All right, so for a successful career planning, here's some tips and some things that you need to be made aware of. First thing, that it starts with you. It doesn't start with the HR person. It doesn't start with your boss. It doesn't start with your career counselor at the university. It starts with you. You need to take ownership. Hi, everybody. You need to take ownership of this process and understand that you are in control. You need to drive your career forward. And start with the end in mind. So what does that mean that you start with the end in mind? You know what, they're asking me to share the slides here. Let me just do that real quick. Sorry. If you are not on the Zoom call, which you're not, you're here with me on Instagram, you're missing out on some of the slides, but I'll do some screenshots and put them in my stories. Hi, everybody. Okay, so start with the end in mind. So what does that mean? For a lot of us, we're thinking, oh, you know, I want to be the CEO. I want to be the owner of a company. I want to make manager. I want to have my own business. I want to be a team leader. Or maybe I'm a stay-at-home mom, you know, and my career is to make sure that I direct my kids the right way and that, you know, I'm positioning them to succeed. So whatever your goal is, a lot of us, we get stuck in the process. A lot of us think about all the things that we need to do in order to get to the end result. And let me move out of the career planning for a minute and give you an example outside of that hopefully you can relate. So let's talk about exercising. So a lot of people say to me, wow, you know, where do you find the time? And time seems to be this thing that everyone is missing out on when we all have the same amount of hours in a day. And folks say, no, I wish I was fit. I wish, you know, I could like lift up a box and run a flight of stairs and not have my back hurt. I wish that I could eat healthy, but I don't want to have to do all that dirty laundry. I don't want to have to wash my hair all the time. I don't want to get all sweaty. I don't want to have to redo my makeup if I go during lunch. I don't have the money to spend on a gym membership. Like, you're thinking about the process. You're not thinking of the end result. Because if you think of the end result, all you got to do is think of the Nike brand, just do it, and you just get up and you go do it. So a key process for your career planning is to think about the end result. You know, with sports analogies, like, keep your eye on the prize, keep your eye on the ball, just like think of the end result. And then the process in the middle will just be something that you have to do to get you to where you want to be. Plan ahead and be flexible. So if someone offers you a position in a different team or a different department, or you're looking for a job that is ABC and you get contacted by a recruiter to do something different, think about creatively how you can still contribute in those roles and how that can position you to get closer to your end result later in life. And be flexible. Don't be so strict. Well, I'm looking for a manager position, and in this role, they're calling it senior or whatever. Don't get so stuck on the semantics, and more so on what that means, and how it can get you closer to your goal and continue to challenge you, and you can continue to grow and contribute in a way that you feel good. So be flexible, get advice. Okay, it's key. Get advice from people who have been there and done that. I'm going to dig deeper into that a little bit later in the session. But getting advice is key. Don't think that you know it all. You don't know it all. We don't know everything. And getting advice from people who have been there, from people that are in that industry, from people that are maybe doing that job is super important, because when you ask them, what's it like a day in the life of a manager at this manufacturing company, or what's it a day in the life of a lawyer here in this big law firm, and they might tell you some of the things, and it's super important for you to have all that information. And always have a growth mindset, like, how can I just make this bigger? How can I just make this better? Okay, so few things that you must do: stay open to new possibilities, take risks and create those opportunities. So come from a mindset of solution oriented. So let me give you an example. I'm coaching someone right now. Maybe she's going to join us a little bit later. I'm coaching someone right now, and she would like to get a job in a law firm. But she's very passionate about corporate responsibility, about what the firms are doing out there in the community and things of that nature. So as she figures out her next step, you know what happened? She found on LinkedIn a job in corporate responsibility for a huge law firm. And I said to her, why don't you take that role? And this way you can get to know the company. And when they have an opening for a lawyer, you're already there. So you get to contribute in a way that fills your purpose and fills your heart, and you're moving towards your goal. So this is what we're doing, and this is what we're working on. And it's pretty amazing. So stay open to new possibilities, be flexible, take risks and create opportunities, take responsibility and take control. Okay, so here I'm going to pause and I'm going to go in my soapbox for a minute, because when you take responsibility of your personal growth and your continued learning, I don't want to hear that the economy in your country is not good and that there are no jobs out there, that you didn't go to the right school. Cesar, hola. I don't want to hear that you went to the wrong school, that you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, that you weren't given, the proper opportunities. The truth of the matter is that when you take ownership of where you're going and what you're doing, you create those opportunities. You come from a solution-based place where you're developing those solutions and those opportunities. And maybe you're telling me, no, I work for a huge organization and there's no way. Or I work for a small company and I have a small team. How am I going to create anything? You do, because it's all about your mindset. So if you start your day in that God is here to punish you, you're going to live your life a certain way. If your mindset is that you're here for God to challenge you and help you, don't you agree that you would live life a different way? So why don't we stop making excuses for ourselves? And it's what I say in my live seminars, you guys, and this is getting real. Little kids tell stories. Adults take ownership. And adults have self-awareness. So you stop blaming the government. You stop blaming the president. You stop blaming, your spouse and the fact that your parents got a divorce when you were little. No, those are all stories you're telling yourself, because What's really behind that is fear, either a fear of success or a fear of failure. Is it a fear of abandonment, a fear of rejection, a fear that if you make it, then you're going to have all this responsibility and then you're going to have to, pay more bills and be on top of more things, and you just really deep inside don't want that? So the truth of the matter is that even when you're thinking about career planning, you need to take ownership of the process. You need to take ownership of your current situation and stop telling stories. Because really, honestly, no one wants to hear them. And I'm a coach and I don't want to hear them. Okay, so moving on. On the don't wait for opportunities to come to you. I'm telling you, I worked in HR for many years, and I didn't wake up every day thinking about Susie and how am I gonna, promote Susie this year? Because you have 1,000 things to do. And if you don't raise your hand, and if you don't sign up for those opportunities, and if you're not in front of the key people that will have your back and that will provide you with those opportunities, they're not going to do that for you. It's very, very rare, unless there's some kind of succession planning. I'm going to retire soon and I need to train you to take over for me, something like that. But how often does that happen? And I bet you it's not happening to you. That's why you're here and you're listening to this. So don't hesitate. Don't blame others, like we already talked about a little bit. And don't ever stop learning and developing. I learned that I'm going to be, Trump tells false stories. That is hilarious. I'm not even going to pick up that rope. I just sometimes have to stop and read some of these comments. And I'll wave to you guys. Never stop learning and developing. I realized years ago that I'm going to be a forever student because I always want to learn what's out there and new methodologies of doing things. And like how we already discussed, why am I going to learn how, by myself and experience 10 years worth of stuff when I could just hire an expert that was going to tell me what to do, the shortcut, because they've lived it, they studied it, and they're just going to give me that content in a compressed version and say, here you go. Like, let's just say that I wanted to now work on the marketing side of my business. Do you know how much marketing experience I have? Zero. I went to school for finance, I've been working in HR, I have coaching and leadership development certifications. Do you know what I know about marketing? Nothing. What am I going to do? Am I going to now learn and go work in a marketing agency in a role? No. You don't. You hire someone who knows what they're doing. You pay that consultant because you want the best. You pay them and then you move on and you take on their advice. So never, ever stop learning. Always be consuming information however it comes to you, whether it's modes like this for free or, continuing to learn through paid courses all throughout your career. So one thing that is key, though, is to align your interests and your skills. So here's a cool example. For many years, I got a call. Oh, what happened? Okay, for many years, I used to dance flamenco, and in my mind, I was doing great, but my teacher didn't seem to think so. Oh my gosh, that's so mean because I tried so hard and in my mind I was so good. Even my mom told me I was doing great. But if I wanted to be a flamenco dancer professionally, that probably would never happen. And that was not in the stars for me. And that was just something that I needed to come to terms with and realize that was not going to be my life and my dream, right? So what are your interests? In my slide here, I have interests, abilities, and options. And in the middle, that has to come together. So what are my interests? I'm interested in developing people. I'm interested in moving people forward. I'm interested in progress. I'm interested in breakthroughs. What are my abilities? Okay, I can communicate well. I love public speaking. I love training. I love being in the front row of people's successes. When they make it, I feel like I make it. And that's my ability. Okay, but what are my options? Are there even jobs out there for this? Do I live in an area where this is available? Is it online? Is it in person? And then how all of that comes together. Like at this stage of my life, I can't sit here and say to you that I want to be an astronaut. I can't even sit here and say to you that I want to be a flamenco dancer. because clearly I don't have the ability according to my teacher. So being realistic with that and having that self-awareness again is key. I'm just cracking up because I think this is really funny when I start giving my own examples. Okay, so the career cycle, if you're in the Zoom meeting, you can see my slide. The first step is to assess. Okay, so understand your strengths, your skills, your values, and your personality. Are you the kind of person that you want to be shaking hands with people and in sales and in networking events and 3 martinis and a handshake every day? Or do you want to be behind a computer? And your values are super important, because if you value family, then most likely you're not going to want to have a job where you're going to travel every week, every day of the week, right? So assessing, that is the first step. Then we move on in the cycle to educate, gather information, take classes, talk to other people, really immerse yourself. Like I could sit here, right, and bring Michael Phelps, and he could sit here and tell us all about swimming. Michael Phelps is going to tell us about swimming. He's going to explain to us what it's like to jump in the pool, what it feels like when you're swimming and the water's rushing through your ears, and when you take that breath and you go back under, and what the water feels like. Or you could just jump in the pool yourself and figure it out. It's much better than you reading a book about swimming, right? So the education piece and the career planning is key. Like gather all the information, go on LinkedIn, stalk these people, really understand from them what's it like to be in that industry, in that career, in that role, in that team, etc. And then you have to test it out. Maybe you want to like volunteer in that space. If you work in the same company, if you don't work for the company, you can't go knocking on doors and say, hi, can I just test out this job for a day? Don't do that. And definitely don't say that I told you to do that. But if you're working in the same company, you can shadow someone. You can say, hey, can I just sit with you for a few hours, maybe next week, just to kind of see what it's like, you know, to be you. Maybe that person is on the phone all day and you don't like being on the phone. Or maybe that person is always in front of the computer and they're not out there seeing people. You know what I saw a lot of in my roles is that I was always coaching people, always having meetings, always in front of people. I was never in front of my computer. And in a way, I needed that balance. So at the end of each day, I felt like, oh, I still have so much to do. And I just felt frustrated because part of my job was to be in front of people, but I felt like my emails were piling up and that was giving me anxiety. And every time I saw an email pop, I would like, freak out. And I wish that someone told me, listen, this is part of the job. You know, you're going to have to do your emails at night or another time, not during the day when people are available. So understanding all those things and coming to terms with it and saying, okay, I signed up for this and I'm good with it and I understand it now and let's move forward. Instead of having something that's lurking in the shadow come at you and then you're halfway through, you know, being in that role and now you lost your mojo and you don't really want to do it anymore. And now, you know, you're giving it your half-ass, and you know what happens when you give your half-ass? You get half results. So you can't dabble. You got to play big and go all out. So, all right. So the first part I said in that career cycle, let me just make sure my technology here is working. It is. Okay. So understand your work values, your career interests, your professional skills, and your personality type. In knowing your strengths, and most importantly, you guys, this is key. If you don't take anything from what I just said, take this. Understand your weaknesses. Wow, this is huge. I'm going to tell you something. I worked for this lady, okay, that we were all convinced that she didn't know one thing. But do you know what she did really well? She had a network of people that knew those things. And she would just call them or email them, get the answer and send the email. Get the answer and send the email. Get the answer and coordinate the meeting and deliver that information. But I was convinced that if you asked her point blank, Hey, how do we do ABC? She would always say, let me get back to you on that. Let me research and make sure that the rules haven't changed. And I was like, really? You don't really know. But you know what? She played on her weakness really well by being very resourceful, smart, and understanding that her strength was building relationships and having a strong ass network. So she was able to cover and bridge the gap of her weakness with her strength. Does that make sense? Genius. Genius. If I didn't learn anything from that woman because she didn't know anything, I learned that. And I was like, wow, I need to have a network of people, for example. So being in HR, I don't know much about employment law, right? Because I'm not a lawyer. So I'm not about to sit here now and go to law school and again, right? Go to law school, relearn everything, spend years in experience out there in the world with a infinite amount of possibilities of things that could happen under employment law. No, I am going to find myself a good lawyer that I'm going to have on retainer. And anytime something comes up, I'm going to call this person and I'm going to ask them for their advice and I'm going to pay them and then I'm going to say thank you. So understanding your weaknesses is key. And when if you're looking for a job or you're looking to make that switch or you're looking for that promotion within the company that you're already in, when you come out and you admit or you highlight the fact that these are your weaknesses and this is what you're doing to bridge that gap and this is what you're doing to cover for it, right? Or to compensate. I'm taking a course, I'm not really good with public speaking, so I'm joining Toastmasters, whatever. People are like, wow, so much self-awareness, and you're not sitting here and blaming the president, something like that, right? Because we don't do that anymore because now you took Juliana's seminar and you know better. All right, let me just make sure everything here is working well. Okay, so the next slide that we're going to talk about is assessing your work values. So what kind of work environment do you enjoy working with? How do you envision that? Do you enjoy utilizing your creativity? Do you want to be in a job that is mentally challenging? Do you want to be in a job where people are uber smart and they're constantly teaching you new things? I know a lot of people that they're like, no, I don't want that. Life is hard enough as it is, and I'm good with that. I don't need any more challenges. I don't need any more things. So I'm really understanding what that means to you, is key. And I have a worksheet here that really helps you figure that out. And then figuring out your professional skills. So here's one that I love because I'm in the people business. So the people skills. Okay, so we have here mentoring, meditating. I'm sorry, I can't see. It's not meditating. It's mentoring, mediating, training, collaborating, and empathizing. So those are the people skills. Okay, so then you say, okay, I really enjoy it. I don't really enjoy it. I'm very good at it, and I'm not very good at it. Why is that important? Because maybe I'm really good at it, but I don't enjoy it. Or maybe, I don't enjoy it and I'm not good at it. So what are the chances that you're going to bridge that gap? 0. Administrative skills, scheduling, facilitating, organizing, generating reports, coordinating. These are all things that we need. And it doesn't matter what industry you're in or what level you're in. These are all things that we need in order to get the job done. Even in our houses, here we go, I'll go my soapbox. Most females are also the CEOs of their homes, right? You're sitting at work in a meeting and you're like, ooh, I have to buy, paper towels and I got to make sure that, I have enough tomatoes for the sauce I'm going to make. All these things are running in the back of your mind. And if you don't have these organization skills, you're probably not going to be able to run that household. So what do? You either outsource, you hire someone to do that for you, or you don't do it. Something starts to break down in that process. So understanding all of this is key. And then, you can build your career plan. So here in my worksheet, I have, okay, what are your short-term goals, your middle term, so 2 to 5 years, and then your long-term goals. And then you break it out with your work values and your likes, your dislikes, your current gaps, your current skills, and your career goal statement. I love that. And I teach an entire session on that, the career goal statement, in creating like an anabolic statement that really describes you and your goal, and where you want to be and how you make that happen in the short term, because now you know exactly where you're going. Is how we say, you know, fuzzy targets don't get hit. If you don't really know where you're going, if you don't really know where you're shooting, then chances are you're not going to make it, right? So, okay, and then you can even elaborate and put on there like education, employment history, personal interests, and things like that. All right, so now we're on to the educate part of the framework. So seek out mentors and sponsors. Agree on the commitments and give as much as you receive. So there's this misconception out there that you're supposed to get, and then you give a little, and then you get. No, once I get more money, once I get the title, once I get more time, then I'll be able to give back to the community. Then I'll be able to have more patience. Then I'll be able to da-da-da. No, the truth is that you have to give a lot more than you receive. And that could be in training other people, in, you know, being a mentor and a coach for people that just started in the organization that you're working in, and agree on those commitments. So if I commit that I'm going to, you know, be a buddy to the interns every time that they come in, you know, do that and give as much as people are giving back to you. Okay, so seeking out mentors and sponsors is also a really cool thing to learn, and another really great nugget from this session here today. I want to be a director, so my mentor is a director. That person already went through the manager role and they know what that means and whatever. You know, I want to be a doctor, so I'm in medical school. My mentor is someone who is already a doctor. Maybe they have their own practice, maybe they work in a hospital. Whatever it is that you want to do or you aspire to be, that person is your mentor. Okay, now what's the difference between that and a coach? For example, if I say, I want to write a book. I've never written a book. This is an example. I don't want to write a book. Then I would get a mentor that would say, okay, I already know the publishing company. I already know the editor. I already know who's going to take your pictures. I already know who's going to, you know, do the cover for you. I know the artists because they have already been there and done that. Again, you are tapping into hiring that specialist to be able to shorten the amount of time that it's going to take you to figure that stuff out on your own. So that's a mentor, and they're going to keep you honest with your progress, and they're going to say, okay, every once in a while, you need to give me so many pages so that we can put this book together, right? So what is a coach, though? Interesting that we're bringing this up. A coach is someone who's going to move you forward no matter what. Like, I don't have to be a chef. I don't have to be a nutritionist. I don't have to have written a book. I am just here for your progress. So we're not going, a coach doesn't talk about, oh, you know, but my parents got a divorce when I was little. No, we don't talk about the past. We talk about starting today and moving forward, and making sure that you're staying accountable to your goals that you set for yourself and that we see progress. Probably addressing some limiting beliefs and some things related to your mindset that have been holding you back from tapping into that potential. Now, a sponsor is someone who has your back, is someone who's going to open those doors for you, is someone who's going to provide a platform for you to succeed. So let's just say that I work for a company and I want to get promoted. But, you know, there are no like opportunities out there. And every time there's an opportunity out there, so many people apply. How do I get on someone's short list? That's your sponsor. You know what your sponsor is going to do? Your sponsor is going to go like, you know, I just got this new project and I want you to work on it with me. And when we present it in front of whoever it is that we have to present it to, I want you to present it. I want you to deliver the information. When you are in a big meeting, your sponsor is like, hey, ask that question. Make sure that, that they know who you are. Ask a really good question. Make sure that that everyone sees you, because you're really great at that and you haven't gotten that much exposure in the past. And I'm here to make sure that you get that exposure. That's your sponsor. So continuing with a cycle, and I talked about testing out the role, and testing out that job, and really asking people, like, what's it like a day in the life of? What's it like to be out here all the time? What's it like to travel all the time? What's it like to be on the phone all day? What's it like to, if you're in sales, to get rejected all the time? How does that feel? How do you cope? What are some of your mechanisms? Man, I wish I had this advice when I was growing up professionally. This would have been gold. Anyway, job shadow for a day is a really great way to do that, and ask about rotational programs. Can I work in this department for a little while? Can I move to that one? Can I move to that one before I make a decision? A lot of internship programs have that. And then, execute. So start your job search, your career plan, and then get the job. I already gave you some tips on, like, talking about, your weaknesses, and showing up already with the solutions and how you bridge those gaps based on the weaknesses. You've got something that is as dynamic as you. And as, the world changes, as the world continues to rapidly change, so does your career plan. So let me give you another example about me. So I started my career in finance, and I used to love what I did. And 4 years in, there was a macro. I mean, that word wasn't even invented back then in Excel. Someone created a macro in Excel that automated a lot of my job function, which in the end resulted to our entire department of 250 people to be outsourced to India. This was years ago. And most of it was being done automated through software. So, of course, if I had a career plan that was static, then I would be a dinosaur and I'll be out of a job forever because I'm not relevant anymore. But the trick is to continue to move with the times and to continue to be flexible. Now there's this whole angst about artificial intelligence, and what's that going to do to a lot of our professions, and what's that going to do to to a lot of the professions. In accounting, a lot of attorneys are fearing, the robots coming in and taking over their roles. So how can you stay and contribute? How can you stay relevant? There's one thing that a computer or software is never going to be able to replace, and is our human interaction. So are you building on those skills? Are you continuously stretching yourself? Are you hiring a coach to make sure that you have active listening skills and that you're staying relevant with the times? Because, your job today is not going to be the same job 2 years from now. Back when I started in HR was 5. Now, the people that do these studies are saying it's like 2 years. So you know what that means? That when you apply for a job, that job description is not relevant anymore 2 years later, but it's going to take you 4 to 5 years to move on to the next role. Isn't that crazy? Because technology is moving so fast, and what are you doing to stay relevant? That's why it's so important to continue to learn, and it's so important to continue to grow and to be flexible. So your career plan is something that is always in flux. If you're being flexible, if you're being creative, you're solution-oriented, you're always learning, you come up with a plan, you shadow someone for a day, you say, yes, this is it. 2 years from now, that changed, and so did you. And so that career plan needs to be something that's always in flux and always changing. Here I have another quote that I love. It's called Know What You Want. Most people confuse their strategies with their goals. They believe that what they're looking for is the goal itself, when in fact, the actual goal is the feeling of satisfaction, of triumph, of peace, or joy that they get once that goal is achieved. So let me explain what this means. My goal is to be rich, for example. No, my goal is not to be rich. My goal is to have the feeling of financial freedom so that I can go out there and do the work that I do without having to worry about bills, right? And being able to provide my family with options that maybe I didn't have. And that would make me feel accomplished, and that would make me feel successful, and that would make me feel respected and like I made it. That's the goal. See, so when you're stuck in the title, I want to be a manager, I want to be a CEO, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be a doctor, you're stuck in that, and that creates a breakdown in that career plan. So when you figure out the feeling that you want to have, remember, like the end result, we talked about in the real beginning, focus on the end result, then it's easier for you to navigate through that and create that plan and be flexible with that plan if something doesn't necessarily work out the way you thought it needed to. And then I have here a worksheet that talks about the SMART action plan, creating goals that are specific, so as specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. So you create that goal and you stick to it. It's so important to create these goals because when you look at them every day, the mind starts to create solutions and ideas and reasons as to why, and validates reasons as to why you deserve that goal. When I think about, for example, let's just say, I want to get this job, and have this title. If it's something so out there, your mind is going to go, you're never going to get that job. That job's not for you. But if you look at it every day and it's a measurable, attainable, and timely, like the SMART goal, you ask yourself, well, why not? And your mind is going to come up with the answer. And if you say, yeah, I want to get this job and I want to be a manager in this company, it's possible. I went to school, and your mind starts to give you reasons. Yeah, because while everyone was out partying, you were in here studying because you've gone through enough professionally that you deserve a break, and the mind starts to empower you. That's why it's so important to look at our goals every day. And if you don't have goals, then you really need to come up with some goals, and I'm here to help. So just to recap and to wrap up our session here today that I've compressed and delivered to you, if you have any questions, by the way, let me know. And I'm going to check here on the chat that I'm doing to make sure that no one is asking any questions. Okay, 1 second. Okay, technology is getting in the way. I have to check one more place. Okay, I'm good. All right, so just to wrap up, the career cycle is assess. So understand your strengths, your skills, your personality, your values. What does that mean? Your weaknesses. Then educate, like learn everything about that industry, everything about that job. Like I gave the example of Michael Phelps. Just jump in the pool, immerse yourself in that information. It's never enough. It's never too much. Then you can test it out. Find people in that industry. Look at YouTube videos, tutorials, things that have, more information, and test out that role and test out that industry, test out that field to make sure it's still something that aligns with you and that's something that you want to do and that you'll be comfortable with. And then execute, create that plan, go after it, talk to the right people, talk to your sponsor, talk to your mentor, hire a coach, go on LinkedIn, update your profile, update your resume, go on the interview, land the job, and then repeat because we want it to be very fluid and as dynamic as we all are. Right? Any questions? Anybody? Thank you so much for participating today. It fills my heart to be able to deliver this content because it is so good. And I know that a lot of times I'm not telling you something that you don't already know, but hearing it from someone else and maybe the way it's packaged and the way I explain it resonates with you a little bit more. And that to me is just amazing. So thank you so much for participating today. And I look forward to seeing you next week for our next topic that is peak strategy sessions. Peak performance strategy sessions. It is amazing. It's another really great framework that you can definitely implement every day in your life with no added money, no added time, and you really feel like you can actually get the results that you've been looking for years. Okay, so until then, take care. Thank you so much.